Marhaba. Hello, once again. I'm American writer and historian Jack Dempsey, and with me is my Palestinian writer and historian friend, Mr. Muhammad Jihad Ismael. Today is Thursday, September 14th, 2023. This is another program in our series. I think we might be up to 40 programs now on the realities of Palestinian life and their situation within occupied Israel. Muhammad lives and tries to work in Deir al-Balah, which is part of the Gaza territory. And we've been friends for a couple of years and more. And with these programs, we simply try to do our humble best as two independent individuals to keep the Palestinians alive in the discussion of right and wrong in this world of international diplomacy and international problems. Mohammed, I know that today might be a good day. We're going to talk because you and I have talked about your coming to visit me where I live now on the island of Crete in Greece. And that would be a fantastic dream come true. But there are so many difficulties around that we thought it was worth the world's knowing at the difference between the treatment of Palestinian travelers and visitors and Israeli ones. So we have collected our information and we're going to present that. But first, Mohammed, again, I just want to say hello. I appreciate every single time that we get together and I can learn from you about the Palestinian situation there in Gaza and in the entire occupied territories of Israel. You mentioned that this week, besides lack of drinking water, food shortages, medicine shortages, confinement for going on 16 years, these are the usual crises that most people just have almost no conception of because life is so extraordinarily difficult by design in the Gaza territory because of Israeli apartheid policy. You said, Mohammed, that there is seemingly some drums of war beating in the air. Can you talk about that and what you as a Palestinian confined in Gaza are able to learn about what's going on this week?
Hello, brother. I am so happy to be again talking with you and to our friends who are watching us. Yeah, in fact, in the recent days and weeks, we started to hear the drums beating between Israel and Hezbollah. Both the media of Hezbollah and the Israeli media started to speak about an acceleration and a potential confrontation in the coming weeks or months. In fact, Israel and the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has accused Hezbollah of building a military airport in the southern Lebanon, just 12 kilometers north to the borderline. And he accused Iran of the responsibility on building and preparing this airport. And he said in any coming war between the both sides, Israel and Hezbollah, this airport will be used for the flying of drones into Israel, and these drones will make a severe headache for the Israeli security. Because Hezbollah is famous of his huge arsenal of kamikaze drones, and kamikaze drones is not a reconnaissance drones, but an offensive drones. They go directly to the target and make an explosion to this target. So Netanyahu considered this new airport is like a very risky matter, and he asked the chief of staff of the Israeli army to prepare himself and to prepare a plan in order to strike this airport as soon as possible when they have any coming confrontation.
And this is big time serious because any strike against Hezbollah in Lebanon would be an act of war. And Hezbollah is not afraid to fight Israel. In fact, many historians and analysts I've seen say that, in fact, Israel is afraid of Hezbollah because of their earlier conflicts. And this would be a complete bloodbath. Simultaneously, it's interesting that they are worried about drones flying over Israeli airspace because all you have to do, Mohammed, is step outside your house and there are Israeli drones always constantly circling Gaza, watching every little thing that people do. There is not even the quietness of the air because it's they're flying over you all the time. But I guess they don't think that should bother you. For the Israelis, why would anyone be afraid of drones flying over their heads? But it seems to be different when the Israelis are the ones receiving these things. Do you feel, or do you think, Mohammed, and what have you learned, that, well, we know for years now that Netanyahu wants a war with Iran? And do you feel that they are trying to foment a conflict like that because they think the United States will help them?
Yes, brother, I think it must take place one day. This war must take place one day. Sooner or later, this confrontation is going to take place between Israel and Hezbollah and Iran. Uh, uh, I think you know very well that Hezbollah is gradually building a very huge arsenal of missiles, of drones, of offensive naval weapons. So I think finally this will lead us to a new war, but no one can predict when this war will take place. But I am sure this war will happen. It will take place. Yeah.
And
And
Mohammed,
if you
so people outside of Palestine can understand, what is the reasoning of Hezbollah? Do they want to attack Israel? Do they want to destroy Israel? Why would they be attacking? Is it because they are have sympathies with the Palestinian people? Or what is the hostility from Hezbollah's side about?
Hezbollah declares that despite the Israeli uh, despite the Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon, right now Israel is still occupying a very strategic Lebanese territories, which is Shaba Farms. Shaba Farms is a very strategic hill area in southern Lebanon, and right now Israel is still occupying this area. So right now, Hezbollah consider this Israeli withdrawal as incomplete withdrawal. So right now we have occupied Lebanese land. If you want us to make a ceasefire, to make a truce with you, you have to get out all of our lands, including this area, Shaba Farms. So right now we have occupied Lebanese territories. This is the main reason for Hezbollah threatening for Israel.
Mm-hmm. And during these 1967 and the 1973 wars, Israel also occupied and still occupies the Golan, the area called the Golan Heights on the edge of Syria, between Syria and Israel. They did that, Israel, saying that they felt that the Golan Heights would be a staging area for attacks, rockets, missiles, drones against the main population centers of Israel. Is that parallel? Is that similar? In other words, they're occupying the area of the farms and the Golan to protect their northern borders and to push back Hezbollah and Syrian forces from such proximity.
Yeah, in fact, Shaba Farms is very neighboring to Golan Heights, but I think there is no comparison if we want to speak about a defensive reason, because Shaba Farms is a very few area of land. I think it counts very few hundreds of kilometers, while Golan Heights, I think it's about 3 or 4 thousand kilometers. So it's a very few piece of land, not very large like Golan Heights. So I think it will not serve the Israeli defense too much. It's not a big territory.
And I think the world too might be aware that it's likely that if Hezbollah and Israel go to war, that Hamas would be taking part, launching rockets from Gaza, etc. But Mohammed, the Palestinian people, would the Palestinian people that you know, that you are familiar with, would they want to take part on the side of Hezbollah against Israel? Or would they, like in the 67 and 73 wars, try to stay out of the way of the main armies fighting and so forth? How would the Palestinian people respond to an open conflict?
In fact, the allies of Iran here in Gaza and West Bank, of course, are preparing themselves to join any coming battle with Hezbollah, because simply all the allies of Iran in the Middle East are preparing themselves for a new strategy for them, which is the multi-fronts battle. The multi-fronts battle, they want the southern battle to be taking place with Gaza, the eastern one to be taking place with Syria and West Bank, the northern one to be taking place with Hezbollah. So they are preparing themselves for this multi-fronts confrontation. Of course, if any war used to take place between Hezbollah and Israel, of course, for sure, some troops like Islamic Jihad will join this battle.
I see. So, what is your impression of the likelihood of this really coming to blows? Do you think Israel will strike first to destroy the airport and the drone base? Or do you think Hezbollah will know that and try to launch all their assets at Israel first? How do you think this will begin?
Yeah, I think Israel will start it. I think Israel will start with a preemptive attack. It will attack by its air force. It will attack this drone base, and it will attack the other missiles silos. I think Israel will do it firstly. Yeah.
And when was the last time that Israel and Lebanon and Hezbollah were actually shooting and fighting with each other? And what happened?
In fact, that happened in 2006. So we speak about 17 years ago. During this war, the war of 2006, of course, Israel smashed most of the Lebanese infrastructure. They destroyed all the bridges, all the highways, all the factories, the important places inside Lebanon. And of course, it was a very destructive war over Lebanon and over the Lebanese economy. And right now, Lebanon is suffering from its loss in that war. But on the other hand, we have to say that Hezbollah uh, used to attack the Israeli army in a very in a very harsh way. In fact, Israel in that war paid very, very high casualties. I
Yes.
think we have hundreds of killed, thousands of injured, in addition to some troopers were taken as prisoners. I think it was the highest Israeli loss since the earliest war in 1982, the first Lebanon war.
Hmm. And historians and political scholars I've seen, nobody feels that Hezbollah can defeat Israel, and yet they can give them such a bloody nose, so to speak. They can make them suffer a great deal. What do you think is the ultimate purpose then? If Hezbollah, they must be aware that because of the strength of the Israeli military, they probably cannot win. But what is the Hezbollah purpose? We think we know what is the Israeli purpose, that they want to foment a war with Iran while they have the strength and while they have the United States to back them up if necessary. What do you think is the great idea in these people's minds of why they're going to fight?
Yeah, logically, any coming battle between Hezbollah and Israel, for sure it will end with an Israeli victory. I think this is the logical result for such a war. But this war, Hezbollah is promising his followers with a new strategy. He is promising with the uh, with the penetration for its troopers to the Israeli land. So they are threatening with with occupying the northern Israel. They threatening, we are going to occupy the northern Israel. We are going to make penetration for the borders. So we will not keep distance from borders like what happened in 2006. No, this time we are going to penetrate borders and we are going to occupy northern Israel. I don't know how much this is possible or not, but Hezbollah is threatening by this strategy.
And it's, I guess, as usual with most wars, the purposes are unclear. What is the end game? What is the state that you want to achieve after the fighting is over? So, I mean, certainly Hezbollah cannot expect peace if they are occupying any territory that is right now under Israeli control. What really are they thinking? What is the purpose of this?
I think and I believe the main purpose is not helping the Palestinian cause or the Palestinian people. I think the only and the main purpose, it will be make some sort of attrition inside the Israeli army in order to weaken this army, in order to give Iran the enough time to finish its nuclear bomb. They want to make Israel weak
Yes.
in order to serve Iran, because Iran has its nuclear project, and
Do you
Iran
believe
want.
that? Do you
Yeah,
believe
I
that
believe.
Iran is building nuclear weapons?
Yeah, and they are achieving a progress. They are achieving a progress, and they need just very few years. I think maybe they will need like 1 or 2 years in order to finish their project, and they will declare to the world that we have obtained the nuclear arm. So I think Hezbollah is working totally for the sake of Iran. They want to make attrition inside the Israeli army, to weaken this army in order to give Iran the chance to work in calmness on its nuclear project.
Yeah. And, there's a great deal of conflicting opinion Is Iran building a nuclear weapon? They say no. International inspectors say no. Israelis' own intelligence over the years has multiple times said no, that they are not, that they use radioactive materials for medical and industrial purposes, but it's not strong enough material to make a bomb with. But you feel sure that they are building such a bomb. So, what are your information sources for your view, Mohammed? And do you think Iran would attack Israel with nuclear weapons?
Uh, Now, if you look to the war in Eastern Europe between Ukraine and Russia, you will see vividly that the Russian army is attacking the Ukrainian towns and targets with an Iranian missiles and with an Iranian drones. So Iran is joining war in Ukraine. I think I think we have to predict some sort of deal between Russia and Iran. I think Iran is supplying Russia with these big amounts of missiles and drones. I think this is not for for nothing. I think there is a price in the in the other hand. I think maybe Russia will help them in their project, in their nuclear project. Yeah, it's not too much logic issue, but Putin is in a very tough situation, and no one can predict what will happen. Maybe he will make such help for Iran in order to take their missiles and their drones, because he hasn't a lot of ammunition in his war with NATO and with the USA on the Ukrainian arena. So maybe they will get some sort of help from the Russians. Maybe they will get some help from the North Koreans. We don't know.
So you do, I'm just guessing here from what I've just heard, you do feel that Iran will attack Israel?
I don't think so.
Ah.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it will be a defensive choice. They will not make it for offensive. Yeah.
Because, I mean, what would be the point? All they would do was
Yeah.
start a tremendous conflict among all the different nations in the area, and who would win? Probably no one would win, but everyone would lose.
Yeah, but Iran knows very well. Iran knows very well if they think one day to strike Israel with a nuclear weapon directly, they just in very few minutes they will receive the American response from the American Sixth Fleet from the
Yes,
Mediterranean
yes,
directly, just during very minutes, maybe a couple of minutes, they will receive the American tomahawks coming from the Mediterranean and striking Iran with a counter nuclear strike. So it's impossible. I cannot believe that one day Iran will use this bomb to attack Israel. But for sure, they will use it for a defensive strategy.
as a defensive threat to say that if you attack Iran, you can
Of course,
expect that our response will be heavily military and possibly nuclear. It's
of
been
course.
remarked too by many observers that if Iran had the warheads today and the missiles to carry them today, even so, the minute they tried to put a missile onto a launch vehicle, the attack would begin on Iran. Iran would be completely destroyed probably before they could even launch these weapons. And Iran knows this, but they
Yeah,
want the
yeah,
deterrent. They want to, I guess, have these weapons in order to protect their own interests, right?
yeah. In fact, Iran got a learned lesson from what happened with Iraq in the year 1981, especially the Operation Opera. During the Operation Opera, the Israeli Air Force used to fly over southern Jordan, over northern Saudi Arabia, and they penetrated inside Iraq, and they hit the Iraqi nuclear project. They
Yes.
destroyed it totally. Yeah. This
Yes.
happened in the summer of 1981. In that time, when Israel used to attack Osirak or Osiris, the Iraqi nuclear project, in that time Israel hadn't anything to be fearing from Iraq, because Iraq in that time hadn't any superpower weapon. So Iran learned the lesson from this attack, and they want to build this atomic bomb in order to threaten Israel. If you hit me, look, I have something dangerous in my hand. I have this destructive bomb, and I will not leave you without punishment. I will throw it on you. Yeah. So I think they want to build it for a defensive usage, not for offensive.
Hmm. Well, excuse me, such aggressions have been well documented over the years that Iran and Israel do everything they can against each other to, well, assassinate scientists, to take hostages, to make all kinds of threats. But you feel, Mohammed, that this is growing increasingly likely because of pressures from Hezbollah, which is supplied by Iran? You feel that an open conflict is increasingly likely? Do you think it will happen? And how do the Palestinian people feel about this?
Yeah, I think since like 1 decade or two decades, I think and I believe we have some sort of minor Cold War. It's a minor Cold War between
Yes.
Israel and Iran. Yeah, they are making some assassinations, some cyber attacks against
Hmm.
each other.
Hmm.
Also, we have a propaganda of hatred. Yeah, so I think we have some sort of minor Cold War, exactly like the big one which took place between USA and the Soviet bloc. Yeah,
Yes.
we have in fact this new Cold War taking place between both sides, Israel and Iran. And of course, when we talk about Iran, we mean Iran and its allies in the area, Hezbollah, the Shiite militias in Iraq,
Shiite. Yep.
and the Syrian regime, and of course Islamic Jihad, Hamas in Gaza, and we have the Houthis troopers in Yemen. So all of these parties are the allies of Iran. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it promises to be such an unspeakable conflagration that if it begins, everything will explode from every side. It must be like being in hell for you, Muhammad, and your family, your friends, your community in Gaza to hear these things because the consequences almost always fall on the Palestinian people. Some of them
Yes, yes.
will some of them will fight, some of them will join the fight if they have to or they feel they have to. But most of the Palestinian people don't want this kind of thing to happen. I,
Yeah.
I, I don't know how you stand it, having these shadows and weapons hanging all the time over your heads.
Yeah. In fact, if you go back to history, all the wars, which took place in the Middle East during the previous 7 or 8 decades. In fact, at all of these wars, always the Palestinians are paying the highest price. Always they are the people who are affected too much. If you speak about Nakba War, 1948, Suez Crisis War, 1956, Six Days War, 1967, Yom Kippur War, October War, 1973, Lebanon First War, 1982, Lebanon Second War, 2006. Even if you speak about the Gulf War, the Desert Storm in 1991, Kuwait used to expel 500,000 Palestinians out of borders. They used to commit some sort of bad crimes. They stole they stole the money of the Palestinians. They made some rape against Palestinian women. Always, if the Palestinian is part or not of this war, he will be harmed. Yeah, directly. We have to understand this issue. Always, Palestinians are paying the highest price in any
Yes,
war.
and you've shown this, Mohammed, in the last program that we did, the second half of talking about the consequences of the Yom Kippur War of October 1973, that Palestinians, although some of them joined in the attacks and the battles that happened between Egypt and Syria and Israel, they were not a major factor in deciding the outcome of that war. But after the fighting had ended and everybody ended up with more or less a stalemate, that neither side could really do what they wanted in a final way against the other, that it was the Palestinian people who suffered the most, because now the Israelis were taking out their anger about what happened on the Palestinians, who became ever more the victims of their apartheid system. And apartheid has grown decade by decade more and more repressive, more and more life destroying for the Palestinian
Yeah,
people. It's always you. You said in a much earlier program, too. We are just the pawns in other people's very dirty games. So,
yeah,
and I'm not surprised, Mohammed, to be saying this, but when I listen to you, the time goes so fast. But I think we will hold till our next program very soon, talking about the inability of Palestinian people to travel virtually anywhere in the world. We have the details and the contrast where the viewers can vividly understand the kind of, well, international confinement that the Palestinians live under. And before I hand it to Mohammed back to close our program for today, then I just want to add what is usually our introduction, but most people who think about the Palestinian situation, they will say, what can I do? What can I do? Well, three things. You can write, contact, email, telephone, and do all those things. Again, your own government to demand changes in policies that are either indifferent to or support Israeli apartheid. Second, practice BDS, boycotts, divestments, and sanctions against products that are produced in Israeli occupied territories. Because if you take the alternative and maybe look up online how to buy Palestinian olive oil, there are lots of little ways still that your commerce can make huge changes by little things in the lives of Palestinians. And finally, that leads us to what we call family to family. My wife and I have known Muhammad's family for over 2 years. We've been able to send them help through Western Union, no NGOs, no bank fees, nothing. Through Western Union to send them a little bit of funds where they were able to buy canned milk for their baby twin daughters. medicines for their health needs, some improvements on their home living situation, furnishings and repairs and electricity batteries and so forth. But think about it, my friends, the littlest thing, if you sent enough for them to buy a bottle of aspirin once a month, think of how much comfort that would mean to Palestinian people living under these conditions. So don't underestimate it. And if you want to see the beauty of Muhammad's family, the changes in their life since we began this effort, go to Jack Dempsey Writer at WordPress.com. Jack Dempsey Writer at WordPress.com, and you will see page after page of beautiful photographs documenting these changes that we've been able to make. Little things mean the world to Palestinian people in their situation of absolute deprivation and confinement. So, Muhammad, I'd like to leave our closing today to you. There's about 3.5 minutes left. Please share anything you'd like. I'm very grateful, and I know our viewers are grateful for all that you're able to teach us and help us understand and hear about your situation. Our media won't do that. So please accept my thanks and add our closing in any way you'd like today, Muhammad. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother, for this wonderful talk. What we meant to say today is that here in Palestine, we are always waiting any coming potential wars. When you open your radio, your television, always they are talking about the coming war. What is next? What is next? So I think it's the most destructive feeling in the world when you are always waiting in new wars. Can anyone in the world have the same situation? Other people in the other countries in the world are looking for the coming summer, where I am going to any destination to make tourism,
Right.
to have my summer vacation.
Yeah.
But we haven't this feeling. We have to predict what is the coming war, when it will take place, who are the armies which will participate in this war, are we included or not? What sort of harm we are going to predict from this war?
Yes.
So it's a life of crisis. We can say, we can summarize it in two words. It's a life of crisis. From a cradle until death, you have to live your years in this way. It's a life of a crisis. Yes, brother. I am so happy for this program today. Thank you, brother, for this opportunity. And thanks for the friends who used to watch us.
Yes, and I'm grateful too that our numbers and viewership have been going up. I think people do appreciate having a point of view that is not filtered by media companies and journalistic careers and political alliances. We're just two individuals who are trying to keep the discussion alive. So, brother Muhammad, I thank you once again, and well, thank everybody for any little thing of consideration they can do to reach inside the blockade of Gaza and help the Palestinian people in a world where there are no horizons, as one of their poets says. We have no horizon, no hope. There is nothing to look forward to at all in our future. So they depend on us to reach in, and you can do that. Please look at more info below here with the program. Muhammad, we love you, and we'll see you next time.
Me too, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you.